Welcome to my channel, Such Plants. My name is Simon and today we're going to be talking about these two plants behind me, the Philodendron Nangaritense and the Philodendron Fuzzy Petiole. About a year ago, I bought this plant over here as Philodendron Nangaritense, and after posting it to social media, looking at the comments, it was soon apparent that there was a lot of confusion about the Philodendron Fuzzy Petiole and the Nangaritense and which was which, and one being sold as the other. It turns out that the plant was most likely mislabeled and was actually Philodendron Fuzzy Petiole. Then, when Equigenera came out here and did a pop-up, I managed to snag this, the real Nangaritense. After looking around online, it seems like not only here in South Africa, but all around the world, there is some confusion between the Nangaritense and the Fuzzy Petiole. Since there's not a lot of information online about these two plants, and from what I understand, not a lot of videos about the two of them, I thought I would do a video that compared the two plants so that you know which plant you have, and if you are confused, maybe this video will help you figure out which one you actually have. In all of the pictures that I'm going to show you, the Fuzzy Petiole is going to be on your left, the same side it is at the moment, and the Nangaritense will be on your right. So let's first have a look at the leaf. In this picture you can see that although the two leaves are very similar, there are a couple of differences. On the Fuzzy Petiole side, that leaf, although both are pillowy, seems to be a little bit more pillowy, a little bit more intricate in those dents and rivets in that leaf. It's also a slightly darker green and it has a wider sinus. The leaf shape is slightly different on the Nangaritense. It's a much rounder leaf. The Fuzzy Petiole seems to have a more shield-shaped leaf. If we turn that leaf around and have a look at the backs of those leaves, you can see that the veining on the Fuzzy Petiole is far more intricate on the backside of that leaf. It's a little bit more apparent. All those sort of tertiary veins coming off, you can see them quite clearly, whereas on the Nangaritense side, you can see there's far less veining visible on that leaf. Back to the front side of the leaf, you can also see that there are slightly different colors. The Nangaritense has got a more lime green color, whereas the Fuzzy Petiole is that slightly darker green, more of a deeper blue toned green. If we have a look at the petioles, they are very similar. They both sort of have those reds coming through and they both are fuzzy. The Nangaritense, however, does seem to be a little bit more fancy in its fuzziness. And on the Nangaritense side, those little fuzzy bits seem to have white or light tips to them as well. If we have a look at the cataphyls on these plants, they are actually very, very similar. The picture that I have of the Nangaritense here is a little bit older, but the color is very, very true still to what it looks like as that leaf is coming through. You can see it is quite bright, not quite as bright as the Nangaritense, but once the new leaf starts to come through, you can definitely see that there is quite a stark difference. This is when we really start to see quite a big difference between these two plants. On the left-hand side, you can see the Fuzzy Petiole. It does have a slight blush to the underside of the leaf as it comes through. That does eventually fade as that leaf ages and it goes back to like a light green. I also have found that sometimes that blush isn't actually there on all the plants, and I'm not sure if it has something to do with the amount of light that the plant is getting, because mine does seem to get more blush the more light the plant receives. But I could be wrong about that. That's just an observation. I could absolutely be wrong about that. It could be something genetic within each plant that makes it either more blush or less blush. If you look at the leaf on the right hand side, that's the Nangaritense. It is very, very clearly far more pink than the Fuzzy Petiole leaf unfurling next to it. It's quite an intense pink, and the entire petiole has that color to it, not just the backside of the leaf. As that leaf starts to unfurl, we can see that even the top side of the leaf is a completely different color on both these plants. On the left-hand side, that Fuzzy Petiole, it's a more lime green sort of color, a much lighter color, and as that leaf ages, it's going to fade down into that darker green. Whereas on the other side, that Nangaritense leaf, I think because of the vibrancy of the pink on the back, mixing with the green on the front, almost goes like a brown color. It's almost a much darker leaf, which then fades up to that more lime green as the leaf ages. And here's two of those leaves fully unfurled. You can definitely see the difference in color in that newly unfurled leaf between those two plants. You can also see in this picture how much more gloss that Nangaritense leaf seems to have, and the more matte texture on the Fuzzy Petiole on the left hand side. If we look at the petioles on these two plants, there's also a difference in how those age. The Nangaritense petiole comes out green to start off with. Then as the petiole ages, it gets a slight blush to it, and that blush intensifies over time until we get to this final stage when the leaf is fully matured and fully hardened off, where there is quite an intense red, especially right there by the leaf base. On the other side of the spectrum, the Nangaritense comes through quite an intense red color, and then over time that red fades, and eventually that petiole becomes green as that leaf matures. The final difference between these plants, and probably one of the biggest differences, is that this plant over here is a climber. You can put it onto a pole and it will climb very readily up that pole and mature as it goes on. However, the Nangaritense on this side is a crawler. So this is going to need a long pot. It won't climb up anything. It's going to rather spread out and crawl along the ground in the same way that something like a gloriosum would do. At the end of the day, I can see why these two plants might be confused if you just take a cursory look at them. But as you can see, if you just do a little bit more of an in-depth look at both of these plants and compare them to each other, there are some pretty major differences, and you should be easily able to tell which plant you have if you are confused about which one you might have purchased. I also want to thank @HerPlantStories on Instagram for allowing me to use some of the images from her page. Because this plant is fairly new to me, I haven't had a chance to take any pictures of any new growth, so without those pictures it would have been far more difficult to make this video. I really appreciate the help. Her page is awesome, so why don't you go and check it out and maybe give her a follow. I hope this video has helped you if you are confused about the plant that you have in your care. I think what I'm going to do next week is I'm probably going to do my 1 month update on my Equigenera order. Going to split that video up into two and do a update on all the anthuriums, and then the following week maybe update on the philodendrons, because the anthuriums probably are doing a little bit better. I want to give those philodendrons maybe a little bit of an extra week to see if we can get a little bit more new growth and some more update on those guys. Keep an eye out for that if you are interested to see how those plants are doing. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week.